Hey guys, it's Chad, and I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit today about community. But I wanted to start by telling you a little bit about me growing up. I really enjoyed, when I was growing up, going to pool parties, hanging out with friends, and that kind of stuff. But something I didn't like about those pool parties is every time I went, doesn't matter whose house, Joey's or John's or whoever's house I was going to, their mom would always make Kool-Aid like this. Let me show you. They take one scoop of Kool-Aid and put it in a lot of water. Now, what happens when you put one scoop of Kool-Aid in a bunch of water like this? This is actually my wife's. I stole it. She's not home. And so I thought it would be good to use her raspberry iced tea, Lipton raspberry iced tea. But what happens is they would take one spoonful of stuff and throw it in a glass like this, and you kind of get this weak, kind of doesn't taste quite right. But I think parents think it's healthier because they don't put as much sugar in it or whatever. But that's not the way that it was meant to be. And now that I'm grown up, I like to take this, and especially when my wife isn't around, and I think technically you're supposed to put 3 spoonfuls in. So I got 1, 2, let me put a third in there, 3. All right, stir that up. Stir that up. See, that's the way it was meant to be. So all you parents out there, if you're watching this, Kool-Aid was not meant to be weak and all that stuff. It was actually meant to be like this. You know, and this is good. I made this. I was a little low in energy, wanted some sugar. So anyway, I want to talk to you guys about when I was growing up. I was very involved, soccer, and I had a lot of friends, and I was at a private school. And my graduating class of 8th grade, when I was going to 8th grade to go to high school, my graduating class was 7 people. But that 8th grade year, my parents decided to move churches, and I was no longer going to be going to the private school. I was going to a public school. So I went from a class of 7 people to a class of 300 people. And I was going from a church where I knew everyone to a church where I knew no one. And when I got to that place in my life, I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough energy to start over in friendships. Because I lost a lot of friendships. I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough energy to start over again. And I knew that there's possibility of getting hurt, and it just took a lot of time and effort. I just wasn't sure if I could do it. Also, when I switched from the middle school experience to the high school, I switched from soccer to football. The reason I really switched from soccer to football was that I personally got a lot of yellow cards in soccer because I was kind of rough and aggressive. And I thought, you know what, let's get this out in an appropriate way. I'll play football and be able to get my energy, and I'm supposed to hit people in football. And so I switched from soccer to football, and it was a hard transition, but the coaches were great. They were really tough, and I didn't always appreciate them. I can look back and say, you know what, they were great coaches, but looking at them at that moment, I was like, yeah, they really pushed us hard. But they had to push us hard to get us to be a great team. We had a really good team when I was in high school. And the coaches needed to be hard on us. They needed to push our limits and force us to do things that we wouldn't have done on our own. Running hill sprints and doing drills and all that stuff. I wouldn't have done that on my own. But the coaches knew what I needed to do to move to that new level. So when I got into high school, building all these new friendships, I wasn't sure if I was going to have enough energy to do it. And even if I did, I wasn't sure if it was worth it to start all over again in those friendships. But you know what, guys? That is what we were meant to be. We were meant to be in community. And just like this, when I just put that one little teaspoon in there, that's like that first step in a community. That's what when you go to church for the first time, you go to class for the first time, or something like that. That's like that one teaspoon. You're kind of getting this like a diluted, not full strength idea of what that community was supposed to be like. But the more time you spend and the more powder you put into that, the more of the mixture you put in, the more you start to really get the idea of what that community is supposed to be like. And that's what, let me read a little bit here in the Bible actually. I wanted to point you guys towards the Bible in Acts. This is actually, what I'm about to read to you is the kickoff. We just recently had kickoff for Fusion and Ignite and all that stuff, but this is what the kickoff looked like for the church. A deep sense of awe came over them. And the apostles performed many miraculous signs and wonders. And all the believers met together constantly and shared everything that they had. They sold their possessions and shared the proceeds with those in need. They worshiped together at the temple each day, met in homes for the Lord's Supper, and shared meals with great joy and generosity, all the while praising God and enjoying the goodwill of all the people. And each day the Lord added to their group those who were being saved. Now, what they experienced is not this washed down, I go to church, I sit there, maybe I give some money, maybe I pray or sing or whatever, and I get out of there and I go home and watch football. They experienced a whole nother level of community. They called it fellowship. This whole nother level of community. It's not the watered down stuff. It was this potent. They shared everything. They sold their stuff and gave to people that were in need within their community. It was messy because it was not comfortable, it was tough, it took a lot of energy, but they did it joyfully because that they realized this is what God intended. He intended this. He intended this potent, sugary, full of life community, not a watered down version of it. And a lot of times when we think of community, that's what we think of. And it kind of spoils our small group experience because you guys are in small groups, and that experience is supposed to be this. It's supposed to be this potent community experience, this potent fellowship where we share things, we share our lives together, we share struggles and thoughts, and we wrestle through difficult concepts and all that. But what happens is we just want the watered down version because that's comfortable. It's easy. No one has to know about my baggage. No one has to know my deep dark secrets. But this is the way it was meant to be. And so, you guys are sitting in small group this week, or maybe you're not. But I really want you to consider this: that what God wants for us is to get so involved that it's messy. Good things about people, bad stuff about people. You're exposed, but in that there's joy and there's sharing life together, and it's beneficial, and that's the way God intended it to be. He didn't intend it to be this watered down version. Going back to the coaches that I was telling you about in high school, these coaches pushed us really hard, and it wasn't comfortable. But just like that, your small group coaches, they may push where you're at. They may push on you and say, what's really going on in your life, or they may dig into subjects that you're like, I'm not sure if I want to go there. But the coaches are there for a reason because they understand that sometimes you have to push someone to get the best out of them. Sometimes you have to put them in uncomfortable situations where they have to really deal with stuff that's going on in their life. Exercise those relationship muscles and really dig deep in order to fully succeed. And so, just looking back on my life, there's a lot of examples that God has given about what true community is, this potent community that we're supposed to be having. And sometimes I feel convicted that maybe I'm not experiencing everything that God has for me because I'm not willing to invest. I'm not willing to take that risk to let other people know who I am. But that's how God created us. He created us to have this, not weak, watered down stuff, but to really have potent life to the fullest, living life together. That's what He created for us. And so I want to encourage you guys in small group this week, talk about what does real community look like. And what? Maybe your community's not there yet, but how can your community get there where you're totally involved in each other's lives, where you're living life together, you know each other thick and thin, but you're better because of it. So this week, let's talk about that. Let's talk about what real community is. Thanks, guys.